Welcome to the Cinematic Trail, an AI-generated deep dive conversation into the ever-evolving world of cinematography. From exposure theory to lens choices, from lighting philosophy to creative workflows, we explore the craft, the gear, and the stories behind the frame, one trail marker at a time. Want to take your cinematography to the next level? Explore our online courses and learn more at cinematic.com. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for weekly insights and inspiration. Let's begin the journey.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Let's dive right in.
So, we've got your sources here, articles, notes, and that very useful video by Chris Dinard from Cinematic. All about camera shutters, specifically rolling versus global shutters. It gets confusing.
It really does, but it's so fundamental to how your video looks, Especially with fast movement.
Yeah.
Getting your head around it can save you some weird results.
Totally. So our mission today, figure out how these shutters actually work. Look at those common distortions you see.
The wobbly stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And see how understanding this stuff can help you get, well, more cinematic footage.
Connecting the tech side straight to the creative part.
Right. So maybe start here. Have you ever seen video, maybe a helicopter or like a fast fan, and the blades look bent or sort of wobbly, or even filling a screen and getting those weird lines scrolling through?
Yep, classic signs, those glitches. That's exactly what happens with certain shutters. And yeah, this deep dive should explain why.
Okay, let's get basic then. What is a shutter? Why do we even care?
Okay, fundamentally, the shutter's job is pretty simple. It just controls how long your camera's sensor gets exposed to light for each frame.
Like opening and closing a window, basically, for each picture in the video.
Exactly like that, how long the window stays open. But what makes shutter speed unique compared to, say, aperture or ISO?
Which are about how much light gets in.
Right. Shutter speed deals directly with time. And that's huge because it controls how motion looks, freeze it sharp, or let it blur nicely.
Got it. And Chris mentions different types. Mechanical, electronic. Does that link to rolling versus global?
It does. The way the camera controls that exposure time, whether it's a physical door opening and closing or turning pixels on and off electronically, that's really the heart of the difference between rolling and global.
Okay. And the one we run into most often, like in our mirrorless cameras or DSLRs, that's usually rolling shutter.
That's the one. Yeah, it's super common. Even in some pretty high-end cinema cameras, actually.
So how does that work? Chris had a good analogy, didn't he?
He did. The freight elevator one. So imagine instead of the whole sensor getting light at once, it happens sequentially. Like the sensor gets scanned line by line, often from the bottom going up.
Bottom to top scan.
Yeah.
But wait, didn't the sources say something about the image being captured differently?
Yeah, this is the slightly tricky bit. The lens flips the image upside down onto the sensor. So even though the scan is physically happening bottom to top,
The actual picture part is being recorded top to bottom.
exactly. So when you set your shutter speed, you're saying how long each row of pixels is on, but that sequential scan, that top to bottom image capture order, that's still happening.
Okay, so it scans really, really fast, but not instantaneously. The whole picture isn't taken at the exact same millisecond.
That's the key takeaway. There's a tiny delay between the top of the frame being recorded and the bottom. Might only be milliseconds, but with fast motion, that's enough.
And that tiny delay is what causes those weird artifacts we mentioned, the bending.
Precisely. Because if something moves fast during that scan time, its position has changed between when the top part was recorded and the bottom part. So the camera records these slightly different positions at slightly different times, and playback makes it look skewed or warped.
Like those rubbery helicopter blades or propellers.
Or yeah, wobbly guitar strings, slanted fence posts when you pan quickly. It's all down to capturing different parts of the moving object at fractionally different moments.
And one frustrating thing Chris does mention, you often don't see this while you're recording.
Right. It usually pops up only when you play it back. You think you nailed the shot then. Surprise. Warped reality.
Ugh. What about the screen thing, the flicker or lines on monitors?
That's another headache from the same cause that sequential scan. Screens and many LED or fluorescent lights, they refresh or pulse, right? If the rolling shutter scan frequency doesn't quite line up with the light's pulsing frequency, different lines of the sensor capture the light when it's on versus off.
Creating those visible bands rolling through the screen.
Yeah, or just an overall distracting flicker. Super common issue, especially in corporate stuff where you're always filming screens.
Okay, so rolling shutter. Line by line scan, time delay, leads to bending with motion, flicker with lights. Got it. Now, I'm pretty sure I've heard people say, oh, just shoot at a higher frame rate, like 60p, that'll fix rolling shutter.
Yeah, that's a really common misconception, and Chris does call it out directly. The problem isn't how many frames you capture per second.
The frame rate?
Right. It's how each individual frame is captured by the sensor. That sequential scan process is the culprit.
So cranking up the frame rate doesn't actually change the way the sensor reads out.
Nope. The scan speed itself is built into the camera hardware. It's separate from your settings.
Okay, that's a critical point. So if you're stuck with a rolling shutter camera, what can you actually do about it?
Well, this is where understanding shutter speed and its effect on motion becomes your best friend. And Chris really emphasized making a conscious choice before you shoot. Do you want sharp, frozen motion, or do you want smooth motion blur?
Okay, option 1, freeze it. Use a really fast shutter speed.
Exactly. But as Chris Tenard explains in his video, sometimes that looks unnatural, like helicopter blades that just seem stuck in the air.
Right.
And like we just said, even super fast speeds don't magically eliminate the rolling shutter scan, so extreme motion might still show some slight warping.
Okay, so option 2, motion blur.
Yep. Slow down that shutter speed. This introduces blur, which often feels more natural, more cinematic.
Like how our eyes see things move.
Kind of, yeah. But here's the clever part. That blur is fantastic at hiding the rolling shutter distortion.
So you blur the movement over the time the scan is happening.
Precisely. The warping effect gets kind of smeared out and lost within the motion blur itself. It becomes much less noticeable, or disappears entirely.
Joe, motion blur isn't just aesthetic, it's a practical fix.
Exactly.
That's super useful. Okay, so that's rolling shutter and how to manage it. What's the alternative, the one that supposedly fixes all this?
That would be the global shutter.
How's that different? Like fundamentally?
It's all in the name, really.
Yeah.
Global shutter captures the information from the entire sensor.
All at once?
Simultaneously, yeah. Every single pixel starts and stops collecting light at the exact same instant. No line-by-line scanning.
A complete snapshot of that moment in time.
You got it. So when you change the shutter speed on a global shutter camera, you're just changing how long that entire sensor stays exposed. You can still get motion blur with slower speeds.
Oh, without the wobble or skewing.
Exactly. No distortion artifacts because there's no time delay across the frame.
And presumably no screen flicker issues either.
Correct. Since the whole frame is captured at once, it doesn't matter what frequency the lights or screens are pulsing at, it captures a clean image every time.
Okay, that sounds amazing, like the perfect solution. Why don't we have global shutters in every camera then, if it's so much better?
Well, there's the catch, isn't there?
Yeah.
And Chris go into the trade-offs, and they're pretty significant. Global shutters are just much more complex and, frankly, expensive.
What makes them so demanding?
Well, for one, they need a lot more power. Reading out every pixel at the exact same time takes serious juice.
Okay.
All that simultaneous data transfer also generates a lot more heat. So cameras often need active cooling systems, like fans.
Which adds bulk and noise.
Yep. And you need much faster, more powerful processors inside the camera to handle that huge burst of data coming off the sensor all at once.
Right, so more power, more heat, needs faster chips. Sounds like it all adds up to more cost and maybe bigger cameras.
That's exactly it. Higher manufacturing costs, potentially larger, heavier camera bodies. It's just not practical or cost-effective for every type of camera yet.
So where do we find them mostly? High-end pro gear?
Pretty much. And Chris mentioned cameras like the Sony A9 series, some RED cameras, and some RE models.
Okay, so let's bring it back to the listener. When does this difference really matter for you and your shooting?
Well, if you're doing high-end professional work, or you have specific shots, maybe for visual effects, or critical shots of screens where any flicker or wobble is unacceptable,
Then global shutter might be essential.
it might be, yeah, or at least highly desirable.
But for most of us, most of the time, with our rolling shutter cameras,
It really comes down to understanding the limitations and using those techniques we talked about, managing the issue.
so recapping the tips from Chris, plan your shots, think about motion.
Yeah, decide up front. Do you want frozen action or blurred motion? Then set your shutter speed. Slower speeds and motion blurs are generally your best bet for hiding rolling shutter artifacts.
And if you have to shoot fast action with a fast shutter, just be aware you might still see some distortion if things are moving really quickly or you're panning fast.
Exactly. And maybe try to avoid those extreme situations if the shot is absolutely critical and you only have a rolling shutter camera or, the budget allows.
Rent or use a global shutter camera for those specific needs.
Right.
Okay, so summing up the core idea. Rolling scans line by line over time, causing potential issues. Global captures instantly, solving those issues.
That's the nutshell version.
Yeah.
And yeah, while rolling shutter is everywhere and works fine for tons of stuff, just knowing its quirks helps you deal with them. Global is the technical fix, but it costs more.
And the big takeaway for you listening, getting good with shutter speed and how it creates or freezes motion is probably your best tool, no matter the camera. It lets you control the look and minimize those rolling shutter headaches.
It's about making informed choices, you know? Instead of just being surprised by weird artifacts later, you understand why they happen. And you can use techniques, especially motion blur, to get the shot you actually want. It really does empower you creatively.
So here's something to think about. Now that you know why propellers might bend or screens might flicker in your footage, how might that change how you plan your next shoot, especially if there's fast action or monitors involved? What doors does using motion blur creatively open up for you, not just for style, but as a way to manage these technical quirks? Definitely something to consider next time you pick up the camera.
That's a wrap for this episode. Thanks for the great conversation.
Yeah, really great insights today. Thanks for tuning in and spending some time with us.
Thank you for joining us on the Cinematic Trail. We hope today's journey sparked new ideas and sharpened your eye behind the lens. Until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and as always, happy filming.